got a couple races here. We got to talk about Azerbaijan real quick, though, actually. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix, it was kind of a status quo race when it comes to
Oh, man. Yes. So thank you for reminding me of this because I don't know if you had seen it, but the new sprint format, oh, my God. I think it's the most ridiculous thing. I don't know what the FIA is trying to do. I'm not sure if they think that they're making racing exciting. I really don't know. Last year, I can't remember if sprint format racing was introduced 2 years ago or if it was last year.
I think it was 2020.
It was somewhere, like maybe 2 seasons ago, I think.
Right, 2021.
But remember, when they first came out with the sprint format, which was on a Saturday, was going to set, wherever you finished, was supposed to set the field for Sunday. Yep. Well, the FAA comes and says, well, actually, here's what we're going to do now. You get one practice session. We're going to qualify. And this is where I think is ridiculous, and it hurts them in the ratings in general. You get one practice session on a Friday. Qualify on Friday as well. This past weekend, they qualified at, I think it was like 10 in the morning on a Friday. ESPN didn't have it on. ESPN2 doesn't have it on. Usually ESPN or ESPN2 is covering qualifying on a Saturday morning because there's nothing going on. ESPN's not going to drop their usual shows on a Friday morning for an hour long of Formula One qualifying. So right then and there, if you don't have Formula One TV, F1 TV, or if you don't live, over in the United Kingdom, whatever, if you, as an F1 fan of the United States, you're probably going to be missing out on it. That's one, there's one point I'm making right there.
There's strike one.
There's strike one right there. So, strike two. Well, now we're going to have the sprint on Saturday, but this time, this doesn't set the field. This is just a little mini race. But we're going to have qualifying on Saturday morning for this sprint showdown. I don't understand that either. So the first session will be 12 minutes. Qualifying 2 will be 10 minutes, and then the last session will be 8 minutes. Okay, cool. That almost sounds like a regular qualifying session to me, honestly. And then there's this weird thing. I couldn't really pick up on it with the whole tires thing. You had to use certain sets of tires in that whole qualifying deal. It was really awkward. I didn't like the idea of the sprint. But I was like, okay, I'll watch it anyways, just to watch it.
I'll give it a chance.
I'll give it a chance. There was nothing to it because if it's not setting the field for Sunday, what are we doing? And
it's a waste of time.
It was Max Verstappen said it. He said this is an absolute waste of time. I thought it was a waste of time because you're out there running your car extra if it's not going to make a difference for Sunday.
And it will affect the engine, transmission, and all those things that if you have to replace by, let's just say, Miami this coming weekend because of that extra 100 kilometers that you put onto it in under racing conditions, then you're like, well, that was a waste. I could have ran Miami the whole weekend and then changed power units after that. And now, and that's what I see coming up.
Yeah,
from this.
I thought it was ridiculous. I think that it's also ridiculous for the FIA to come out and say, well, now you have, you had the rule where you could change your power units and all the other things up to 3 times in the season without getting a penalty, and now it's 4. They changed that in the middle of the season too, which I didn't understand either. I don't understand why they decided to make all these changes in the middle of the season. I think that's one thing that really, that's like a pet peeve of mine. Why come out with all these major changes in the middle of the season? Why didn't you just throw it out? And the rumors did swirl before the start of the season and right at the start of the season that a new quote-unquote sprint format could possibly be introduced. And then they end up introducing it, I don't know, we're in like round 4 or 5 of Formula One at this point. The sprint, I think it's still positions 1 through 8 get like points. I think first gets 8 or something like that, and 8th gets like 1 point. Okay, cool. So the usual teams that are up there are going to get the usual points because none of the guys that can even qualify in top 10 are going to get close to that.
Not only that, I mean, I
feel like it's wasting time.
Well, we saw contact between Verstappen and George Russell. George Russell, thank you. Which damaged Verstappen's car pretty severely.
It looked that was significant damage.
And they had words afterwards, kind of, I can't wait till the Drive to Survive comes out so we could hear the uncensored version of that. But, I mean, it's kind of unnecessary using And those aren't cheap cars, man.
No.
Those are engineered hours and hours of man hours and hours and crazy amount of monies just in probably that one section of car that was damaged by George Russell racing, which I don't blame George Russell for that. I can't blame Verstappen for that. He was the victim, but I can't blame George Russell for wanting that position. A racer's mentality says, you say go, okay, I'm going. Mm-hmm. As fast as I can through the 100 kilometers. What was it, 17 laps? It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't
a long race.
No.
But still, I'm with you, man, because why change it at the midseason? The sprint format, I feel, was fine in certain races, certain big races, like the British Grand Prix. It's a perfect place for it. Maybe Miami, maybe Las Vegas, and maybe one other track. France isn't on the schedule anymore. Just one of those things. I'd say Spa. Maybe Spa would be a fun place to run those sprint races. But to see the format the way it was, I like watching free practice.
Yeah, that a lot of people brought that up too. Was about free practice.
I like watching all three practices. I like watching the 2 practices before qualifying. No, there were 3 practices. The format.
Yeah, you get 3 practices. You get two practices on Friday, and then Saturday you get a practice, and then qualifying.
And then Sundays to race.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like watching all 3 practices because then I like to see, okay, who's a contender here? Of course, you got Verstappen and Perez. Red Bull's up there. Is Ferrari going to be a contender? Williams is starting to kind of flex their muscles a little more, I feel, especially with Logan Sargent. I feel like he's doing well. I'm biased because he's an American, but I feel like how are they going to develop more and learn more about the cars? What if they have parts coming in that they need to test? We see it on the Formula One games all the time where, this part's fitted, run it. We got to practice. Go ahead and run it. Let's test it out and see if it will benefit us in the long run.
Right.
You can't do that with one practice session.
No.
Because then are you going to set up for qualifying? Are you going to set up for the race? Are you going to do race strategy? Are you going to do that? I mean, and teams probably already know this by this point. If you don't know, okay, we need this amount of fuel to get there, and we'll put maybe 5 or 6 liters more because of overtaking and whatnot. If you haven't gotten to that point by now, I don't know what to tell you. They're way smarter than me. But I do miss the free practice 1, 2, 3. The qualifying is always way more fun, I feel, sometimes in the race itself. And then you have the race, which is the pinnacle of the weekend. Mm-hmm. You throw a sprint race in there, although we saw it before, and we had no gripes about it up to this point. That new format, I'm with you, is just completely off.
I think I saw a lot of comments where people say it was going to take away from the weekend for fans that go there and pay the money to sit and see cars on track for 2 practice sessions. And you could argue that, you still get to see cars on track. Not really if you're going to only see it for a qualifying on a Saturday morning and then a real quick sprint race.
And the results of the sprint race don't even set the field for Sunday, which the sprint race traditionally does in Formula One.
I mean, not everybody wants to be there to watch cars racing like that on a Saturday. Some people just like to see the cars go around on track for a practice session. Just like years and years ago, back in the day, fans would always go to NASCAR races all the time and be there in the entire weekend because people just loved to see cars on track for practice. It didn't matter if they were out there running 100% or they were just running it out there for, some practice sessions in Formula One, guys were out there for 20, 30, 40, 50 laps. They may not be running hard every single lap, but they're breaking the car in, seeing how things doing, figuring out strategies and stuff like that. Now you're throwing in a 17-lap sprint race where people are running as hard as they can the entire time. I would rather take a practice session over that any day. Right,
and some people just like to sit next to the track, or whether in the infield or outfield, having a beer, tailgating, just listening to the cars go around the track. I mean, that's what I enjoy doing.
I just think that I feel like the FIA is trying to make it exciting, and I feel like they're going to start screwing that up.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, and I think I think if they want to make it exciting, I'm pretty sure Charlie was the one that said it, give everybody points then. Why do we have that? If you want to make it, because if you're only giving points to the top 8 competitors and it's not setting the field, it's just the usual guys that get the points on Saturday, and it's just going to extend the lead even more.
Yeah, why even race Saturday?
Why even race
Why even run your equipment? Just say, hey, what if there's a big accident?
If I'm one of those back marker cars, I hate to say back marker cars because there's a big difference in Formula One.
There is.
if I'm one of those back market cars, if I'm not going to get penalized for it, I'm not going to go out there on Saturday. Hey, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what Logan Sargent did.
Well, they had some other issues with the car, but
yeah, they had some other issues with the car.
I could definitely see that. But yeah, if I'm them, if I'm not going to get penalized for it, absolutely. Hey, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Right.
There's no point in me doing this. If the FIA wants to make it fun or make it exciting, then everybody should deserve to get points. That'll make it a little bit closer throughout the season, I guess you could say.
Right. And we could talk about points. We've harped on points, I think, since our episode 1 of when we were calling In the Marbles. I mean, it just seems like points now, especially with NASCAR, have always been an issue. It's a hot topic debate. And now we start getting into Formula 1, where I think they're going down the same road. I mean, it's ever so slightly.
I'm worried that they are.
It's ever so slightly.
Weird. It's just awkward.
It is, and I'm with you there. But
have you seen enough? Of course you haven't. Make sure to subscribe to Ramblin' About Racin's YouTube channel here and check out more of our videos somewhere over here.